much for joining us for this mindset optimization training with WinTrade Global. I'm Sydney Thompson, as most of you know, I'm sure, and today I'd like to run through some techniques for tapping into your internal feedback to constantly improve your ability to do what you came here to do, which is shine your light and share your gifts. So I'm sure that this is not the first time you're seeing this, and I'm not even sure if Tony Robbins was the first person that actually said this, but knowledge is power, and it's only potential power, because of course the real power lies in the actions, particularly when it comes to self-observation. So what I actually mean when I'm talking about self-observation is a tool for personal development, referring to objectively assessing yourself, your behavior, your strengths and weaknesses, attitudes and habits to improve your performance in all areas of life. But of course, we're focusing more on your business performance. And it's about constructively and, more importantly, compassionately setting yourself up to evaluate, to criticize and praise yourself. So, of course, we all know the problem with criticism, right? It's a real challenge, particularly when it comes to self-observation, because, of course, as humans, we're not overly fond of criticism, even when it comes from ourselves. And, of course, you know, there are loads of theories out there about why that's true. But we do know it's really common to feel automatically resistant when receiving criticism, because it can make us feel vulnerable and challenge our self-esteem, and particularly our place in social circles. So why are we so resistant to criticism? You know, we've got a deep evolutionary instinct to protect ourselves. Our self, or our sense of self, is really important. And as we said, criticism can make us feel particularly vulnerable. We all want to feel accepted, valued, so criticism can be really tough to handle. I experienced this last year when I, for the first time, was completely responsible for putting on one of the WinTrade Global online summits. And it didn't go exactly as according to plan. And some people were quite aggressively vocal about that. And I literally spent weeks reflecting on it, but not in a particularly positive way. And as women, you know, we find strength in our communities, which is what WinTrade Global is for me. So, you know, being criticized from other people within our community can make us, you know, question ourselves and worry about our standing within the community. So this is where confirmation bias and self-image comes into play, because it leads us to protect our self-image at the cost of real improvements, because we really want to hold on to what we know. And criticisms that in particular contradict our own beliefs about ourselves can be really hard to confront. Additionally, criticism triggers strong physiological responses, you know, the emotions inside us, such as anger, frustration, sadness. And these emotions are natural responses tied to our instinct for self-protection, which makes it really hard to stay open to feedback and criticism. Now, most of us, I would say, are quite okay with feedback, and definitely okay with it when it's positive. But when it's negative, we just have an autonomic nervous system response to it. You know, criticism often triggers those emotions, as we said, like anger and frustration. But when it hits really close to home, our instinctive reaction aims to shield us from potential harm, and we end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater because we're not paying attention to that really useful information we can get from it. Criticism feels then, in that context, tied to failure or inadequacy, which can, as we said, trigger that kind of anxiety and undermine our self-belief. Now, as women, we understand that fear of failure all too well. Of course, everybody does, but I think it hits particularly close to home for us. And it can really make us doubt our abilities and potential for success. And that's true even of the most confident of women. So it's really important to look at how we can shift to embrace the feedback that highlights our perceived shortcomings, which is, as I said, really very, very useful information for us to develop ourselves. So while it's natural to feel resistant to criticism, it is important to not entirely throw it out. Embracing it requires, though, setting up self-observation in a way that leads to confidence rather than doubt. We often kind of say doubt is the brother of fear. And when it comes in, it invites the whole family with it. So we have all of these kinds of things that can be triggered that stop us from achieving more of what we want to achieve. So when we talk about setting up self-observation, how do we do that? Well, there are 1,000 different ways, and all ways do lead to Rome. But today I want to just discuss some of the ways that work for me and some of the ways that I've actually I want to say done with, but really it's more like done to Dr. Yvonne Thompson, that she's really embraced as well. And she's a really good example because she has a very high standing within several business areas. As Joel just mentioned, she even advises the UK Minister for Business, as well as some of the royals. So when you have that kind of standing and you've been on her kind of journey where you've really had to fight for absolutely everything you've achieved, it can be then really hard to accept criticism. And that's true of a lot of leaders. You're fighting for your position, so that's not something you particularly want to do, but it's so valuable. And just like charity, I would say that the useful parts of self-observation begin at home. It's about what goes on in your mind. It's about what goes on in your nervous system, and in particular, your physiological system, because what you experience emotionally connects then to how that manifests physically and vice versa. So what I'd like to do today is run through a couple of techniques that will basically take us on that journey of feeling really okay with exploring those pieces of ourselves that we might not be particularly comfortable with. But that's going to start with what happens physiologically. So what I'd really like to do now is just run through a small process with you that is really about balancing out your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. So the former is responsible for how you respond, particularly in emergency situations, stress and tension and danger. And the other is about how you relax in response to those situations. So it's all about relaxation. Now, to some of you, what I'm about to ask you to do might look a little bit strange. Can I ask you, can you see me in the bottom of the screen? So I'm going to run through something that is pretty much based along the same lines as acupuncture. So it's just going to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system to bring in relaxation and reduce stress, which will just make it a lot easier then to move on to the next part. If it's something you don't feel comfortable with, feel free to sit this one out. If you would feel more comfortable, turn your camera off and do it without your camera on, whatever makes you feel best. But we're going to start by running through some tapping on certain energy points in your body. And I'll just give you instructions as we do this. So where I'd like you to start is a space between your eyebrows and just tapping as hard as feels good to you. Literally, it's just starting to stimulate that sort of energy flow and the blood circulation in your body. And as you're doing this, I'd like you to start to just pay attention to your blood circulation. And then tap in also to your breathing And if it feels right, just start to slow your breathing down a little bit. Breathing a longer breath out than you are breathing in. And again, now I'd like you to tap below your eyes to the outer corners at the side. And again, just paying attention to your breathing. And if it feels right, breathe in for 2 and out for 2, 3, 4. And breathing in for 2 and out for 2, 3, 4, 5. And now tapping underneath your eyes. There's a sort of the bone that's underneath your eyes. Again, paying attention to your blood flow and also starting to pay attention to where you feel the most tension in your body and the most relaxation. And again, breathing in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathing in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'd like you to tap just underneath your nose, again, as hard as feels right for you. Breathing in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I'd like you to do the same thing, same kind of tapping again, but sort of 2 fingers below your collarbones. And here you can tap slightly harder if that feels right for you. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fantastic. And now I'd like you to tap on the side of your hands, but if you do it this way, you get both of them at the same time. So just taking a moment here to breathe normally and just pay attention to what's happening in your body. Maybe even just starting by focusing at the top of your head and inside your head, between your eyebrows and the back of your head. Now focusing inside your throat and outside your neck and the back of your neck. Now focusing between your shoulder blades, and you can stop tapping for a moment. And focusing on your shoulders, the top of your shoulders, and the side of your shoulders. And focusing on your upper arms and your upper back and your upper chest. Now focusing on your elbows, your lower arms, your wrists, and focusing on the palm of your hands, both hands, and the outside, the back of your hands, and focusing on your thumbs, on both index fingers, on your middle fingers, on your fourth finger, and your little finger. Now focusing on your upper abdomen, your midsection of your back, the lower section of your back, the base of your spine. Now focusing on your lower abdomen and focusing on your seat and pubic region, the top of your thighs, the back and front of your thighs, your knees, and focusing on your calves, your shins, the soles of your feet, focusing on the top of your feet, your big toes, second toes, third toes, fourth toes, fifth toes. Okay, now what I'd love you to do is something called the crown pull, if it feels comfortable for you. So cross your hands and literally pull down as hard as feels good towards your ears. And do that 3 times on your forehead. And now moving back a little bit towards the top of your head. Again, 3 times. And now the top of your head, your crown, just pulling down 3 times. And now moving towards the back of your head, 3 times. And now the back of your head. And now moving towards the base of your skull, the top of your neck. Now just give your neck a rub. Fix your hair if you need to. And the last part of this now is the cross shoulder pull. So as far back as feels comfortable for you, you're pulling across your shoulder and down across your chest, as if you're pulling the stress out of your shoulders and throwing it away. And you can even actually breathe in as you pull and out as you throw away. And one more time on each side. Okay, and just roll those shoulders back. and roll them forward. And now just shake it out a bit. And we're done with the physiological part. So if you don't have one already, it'd be great now if you could get a pen and a paper or have the notes open on your computer, whatever works best for you, so that we can take some notes for the next part. Okay. So we're going to focus on...
Just a moment. I'm not sure if you're aware that your cursor is sometimes, in the middle of the... Gone now.
Thank you for that feedback, Joel. Thank you, darling. Okay, so now we're going to focus on vision and values exploration. We're going to move on to what's holding you back, if anything, and then look at the empowering beliefs that come out of those two processes. So we'll start first with vision and values exploration. So again, I'm going to lead you through a short visualization that will then produce some information for us. So if it feels right to you, and if you're able to, close your eyes, and again, just take a deep breath. And I'd like you to visualize yourself standing at the top of a flight of five steps. Now you're about to hold on to a railing on your left-hand side and move down onto the first step. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, move down to the second step. Breathe in and move down to the next, third step. And again, breathing in. And on the out breath, move down to the fourth step. And finally, breathing in and moving down to the fifth step. And ahead of you is a large wooden carved door. Move towards it now and put your hand on the handle of that door. As you open the door, you see that inside is a cinema theatre, and you're all alone there. So move to the chair that looks the most comfortable to you and take a seat. What you're about to see is a film that's all about you. But not the you right now, it's the you in 2 years. On that film, you will see you as a successful, fulfilled entrepreneur or woman in business. Picture yourself thriving. Your business is thriving and you are thriving. You're making a meaningful impact and aligning with your personal goals and values. Take a moment to see that film vividly. And the film's starting now. See yourself doing what you love to do and doing it with people you love to do it with. See your business flourishing, bringing you fulfillment and making a positive difference. See yourself confidently navigating challenges and achieving your goals. And feel what that feels like. So feel what you feel in that success. And see what you do. And hear what you'll hear when you're experiencing that. Really step into and embrace the emotions and excitement that arise from this powerful vision of you. How does that feel now? Who's with you? Where are you? Now, in a minute, that film is going to come to a pause. Not an end, but a pause. It's time to go. But don't worry, you can come back anytime you want. So stand up from your chair and head back towards that wooden door. Open that door and step outside. Take a deep breath, and as you breathe out, step onto the first step. 5. Now breathe in, and as you breathe out, step onto step 4. Now on to step 3, and on to step 2. Now a really deep breath in, and as you let it out, step onto step 1. And now you're back in the virtual room with us. And when you feel good about to do that, open your eyes and grab your pen and paper. Now, I don't want you to overthink this. Just literally let out whatever comes out. But write down, what kind of values would you need to have to be the person in that film? What kind of values would you need to have? And what kind of standards would you need to set for yourself? Just take a few minutes just to let that process begin, and you can come back to that after our session. One more minute. And now, as I said, you can continue that after the session. But now I'd like you just to take a moment to get to the really valuable part. And that is what's holding you back. So think about where you are right now, and think about where you were in that film, I'd just like you to take a moment to be completely and, more importantly, compassionately honest with yourself and write down what you are doing or not doing, feeling or not feeling right now that might be impeding that vision from happening, that might be preventing that vision from happening. And, do it with, as I said, with compassion and clarity, the same way you might tell a friend a criticism about themselves because you love them and you want to help them. Just take a few minutes to start that process and write those down. What are you doing or not doing, feeling or not feeling, that could be preventing that vision from happening? One more minute. Even if you've only just had enough time to write one thing down, it's about starting that process, so that's perfectly okay. But if you look at that one thing you've written down, if it's an action, or whether it's an action or a feeling, just take a moment to think about the reasons why you are doing that thing or not doing that thing. Why is that happening? Or why is that not happening? Or why are you feeling that way? Or why are you not feeling that way? Just pick one of the things you wrote and take a moment to think about the why behind that being the case. And if you want to write it down, you can, but I just want you to have a strong sense of what that why is. Just one more minute. Okay. So what I'd like to do now, I hope you've had enough time to identify one of those reasons. And what I'd like to do now is just run through, again, it's a physiological practice really here in terms of releasing some of the negative emotions surrounding that thing. Now, as we said at the beginning, knowledge is power, but it's only potential power because it's the actions that you take as a result of that knowledge that's the most important part. And in these kinds of processes, it's what you do next that's a really most important part of identifying or criticizing yourself. But if you get stuck in the bad feelings around it, it's hard to move on to take the appropriate actions, or it's harder. So let's just work on a tiny bit of releasing any negative, in inverted commas, emotions surrounding that reason that you just came up with. So I'm going to play devil's advocate and challenge you and say that if there is something you are doing or not doing, feeling or not feeling, that is preventing you from moving forward towards your success, there's a really good reason for that. You're not a stupid person. You don't do anything for no reason. So I would put it to you, and when we finish the session, please feel free to tell me that doesn't apply to you. But I would put it to you that by doing or not doing, or feeling or not feeling this thing, you're getting a payoff for that. It's giving you something that, at least on an unconscious, subconscious level, is fulfilling one of the basic human needs. So I'm going to run through a short process to get us there. So I'd like you to look at the reason you wrote down, and I'd like you to really take a minute to just really feel it. I mean, really get into the feelings around them, whether it be positive or negative, but really get into how that reason makes you feel. Just feel it in your body. Let any thoughts come up that come up, any images, sounds, emotions, sensations. Just sit in it for 1 minute, please. Thing that you've got there is fulfilling one basic human need, maybe more than one, but let's focus on one. So just as a gut reaction, what resonates more for you? By doing this thing or feeling this way, is it a matter of wanting approval? Is it about wanting control? Wanting security? Wanting love, oneness? Or wanting to be special, to be separate, to be unique? Which one of those wants resonates the most? And just hold that sense of wanting that thing. Now sit in that wanting it. And allow yourself to want it as much as you really do, with that full passion and force. Because there's probably some passion behind it if it's making you do things that are not necessarily in alignment with what you really want. So just allow yourself to want that control, security, uniqueness, separation, or approval as much as you do for 1 minute. Let that wanting wash over you completely. And now, with that wanting in your system, I would like you to curl up and tense your toes and feet, and tense your legs, and tense your stomach, and your chest, and your hands. Ball your hands into fists really tight, and tense your arms, your neck, and scrunch your face. Just tense yourself up as much as possible. And then pull a deep breath in. And as you do, on the out breath, I want you to completely let go of that want. And one more time. Is your reason that you've written down connected to wanting approval, wanting control, wanting security, wanting uniqueness, or wanting separation, wanting love. Which want is that connected to? And allow yourself to want that as much as you do right in this moment in time. And again, scrunch and tense your feet while you're wanting that as much as you do, and your legs, your stomach, your abdomen, your chest. Roll your fists, clench your hands into fists, your face, your neck, everything. Just hold on really, really tight with that wanting, and take a deep breath in. And on the out breath, just let it go. Now just sit for a moment and just feel peace that is underneath. Let it be there for a minute. And when you're ready, come back to us and we'll move on to the next part, the empowering beliefs. So you've got some really valuable information written down now. Let's look at the reasons. And actually, let's look at those things that you were doing or not doing, feeling or not feeling. And I'd like you to flip them on their head. So let me give you an example for me. I could do something 1,000 times, but if it involves potential feedback or criticism from other people, 1 minute before I'm about to do it, self-doubt floods in. And then it's gone the moment I start the action, but it can really wash over me, even if I've done it 1,000,000 times before. So I would say one of the things I'm feeling that's not helpful for me is, fear of failure and self-doubt. So if I flip that on the head, what's the opposite of fear of failure? It's confidence in success. What's the opposite of self-doubt? It's the faith in myself, faith in my abilities. So that's my things flipped on the head. Can you do the same with yours, please? Just look what the positive opposite, a positive action you could take instead of the thing that you do that prevents where you want to be, or a feeling. Just take a minute to write those down, please. And so I would take those opposites and I would turn them into affirmations. You may be someone that for whom affirmations don't really work, but when you've dug so deep to get to the heart of what impacts you, I think affirmations are more likely to resonate. But there's no point in saying, oh, thank you now that I am a person who never has self-doubt and always believes in myself. There's no point in saying that unless I can really feel it and feel the belief of that statement. So if that's the case, you could, use something like I allow myself to build up the faith in my abilities. I allow myself to believe in what I'm capable of. That gives you more wiggle room, more space to feel more comfortable with the situation. So just write that down next to one of those positive flip sides you build. I allow. And then with the values that we came up with from the visualization, you could consider using the phrase, I commit to. So from this point on, I commit to spending time on aligning with my values of mutual respect or respect for everyone. A huge value for me is allowing people to be themselves, because I can be very judgmental and it's something I really work on not doing. A very huge value for me is honesty, both with my clients, with myself, family, whoever. It's an absolute hard limit for me. So I allow myself to build my tools around honesty. I allow myself to schedule in time to develop and work on my values. Something that gives you room and permission to actually believe what you're saying to yourself. And then you can commit even further and schedule in 5 minutes per day. And potentially the time of day, if you're anything like me, the time of day where you feel the most burned out. There's a time of day where I'm like, oh, that's it. It's usually about an hour or so after the kids have gotten home from school. And then I'll take 10 minutes to half an hour to say, you know what, world, stop. This is just a little bit of me time. I often meditate, do affirmations, or sometimes I just sit and stare at out the window for 5 minutes. But whatever that looks like for you, put it in your calendar, because it tells your subconscious brain that you are serious about self-care, about looking after yourself, and about investing in you. So that is pretty much the end of my part of this session today. What I'd really love to do now, only if you feel comfortable with it, please, only if you feel comfortable with it, is I'd love you to take 2 minutes to do 2 things. Number 1, read out one of your I allow or I commit to. Read out one of those to share with the group, but only if you feel comfortable with it. And then number 2, for a very short period of time, tell me how you found this session today.